Alright, you dafties, WhatCulture Wrestling's Adam Clery here, back from his holidays, just sitting on a nice big cliff in the middle of nowhere, just soaking in the sun, so peaceful, so relaxing, and now I'm back here to make wrestling videos for you in this sweatbox flat. I love this job and I'm lucky to have it. Before I start though, I just want to say a big heartfelt thank you to Adam Nicholas for filling in for me last week. He did the perfect fill-in job in my opinion. He was dutiful, he was engaging, he was enterprising, he was enthusiastic, but best of all, didn't put in so much effort that I feel threatened by him as a presenter. I just have to continue to feel threatened by him as a man because he's so handsome. But don't worry, because I'm back don't roll your eyes, just in time for NXT TakeOver, and for once, they've actually got everything sorted about a week in advance. Normally we go into the go-home show here on NXT and we have no real idea what's happening aside from the big matches. All the other stuff still needs to be sorted. Number one contenders always need to be found, stuff like that. None of that this week really, just two dickheads going into a ladder match. But even then, that was only because there was an injury and they had to change stuff around. So in all probability, we were supposed to not even get that this week. We were supposed to have a really nice quiet episode of television going into the 30th ever takeover. My God, where is my life going? Anyway, without further ado, let's get up to our nuts in the proverbial guts. Yep, still got it of it because my name is Adam Clery. Hashtag on Thursdays. We sit quietly adjacent to yellow because it's 26 degrees in this flat, and these are all the ups and downs from this week's episode of NXT. Alright, we kick things off with the absolutely not as appealing as they will think it is loser versus loser match to see who is going to get an unlikely spot in the TakeOver ladder match and who will be crowned the double loser. Yes, we've got Johnny Gargano, who is a loser because he lost to Bronson Reed, and Ridge Holland, who is a loser because he lost to Damian Priest, and somehow NXT thought this is a concept would be really exciting. Look, these men who proved they weren't good enough. Let's see who really isn't good enough and who just wasn't good enough the first time around. Now, inevitably, it was the far more experienced, far more of a draw Johnny Gargano who advances through to TakeOver, and despite commentary's best efforts to convince you otherwise, this is now a big wet fart noise of a debut for Ridge Holland. Like they did that bizarre promo where from the mean streets of Yorkshire where you either go to the nice lovely tea rooms or you fight your way out. In spite of all of that, he's now lost his first two matches. And the thing is, while that's all quite flat and disappointing, as we have seen in the Keith Lee feud before, when you put Johnny Gargano heel, Mirror Universe Johnny Gargano, in a match with someone who is far bigger and more physically physical than he is, there's a really good formula there. He works that dynamic excellently, and despite one of the worst looking botches I have seen in NXT in a good long while, freeze frame, that looks absolutely horrible, the match itself was still very entertaining. I quite liked it. I am giving it an up. It's my right. And I will just say, even after two matches, Ridge Holland's inevitable, nonsensical, not really thought through, random spot filling call up to the main roster can only be minutes away. Minutes. Now, one thing we did have wrapped up going into this show was the identity of Io Shirai's challenger. It is Dakota Kai. She is the number one contender after a relatively strong couple of weeks and then, of course, winning that big match. Now, I will say, giving her a random short squash match prior to TakeOver does absolutely nothing, really, for either her or excitement levels for the match itself under normal circumstances, but giving her a short random squash match here designed purely to set up an altercation with Io to then reveal that Raquel Gonzalez is in her corner after all does both of those things, I think. Now, side point here, Jessie Kamea does look like a bit of a talent to me. She seemed very energetic and very strong, very powerful and very technically sound in the short showing she got here, and if they want to use her somewhere down the line, no doubt she'd be an asset to the brand, but crucially, if they do decide to use her, nobody's going to remember her part in this match. What they are going to remember is Raquel Gonzalez booting Io Shirai in the face, and thus the odds flipping completely on their head for what looked to be a relatively straightforward title defense. And the thing is, if Shirai is to have the nice long-running title reign that we hope she does, she's going to need a big variety of opponents, and right now in the NXT's women's division, you've got like a lot of the same kind of opponent for her. Just really good, really strong, technically entertaining and exciting women. But That's a 6-foot game changer they got now, and this is effectively a handicap match. I am all in on it, no pun intended, up. Well, boy gee gosh darno, Wizzo, howdy, I sure would hate to be the me who thought the El Hijo del Fantasma initial introduction thing was really bad and not being handled well, because this is now consecutive weeks of it being booked absolutely inch perfectly. Now this is their second outing as a trio and easily the best match any of them have been involved in since the Cruiserweight Championship, where you remember the whole thing with the semis, the quarters, the group stages and the points, and then the semi-final that was for the B in the semi-final, and it's just a whole big mess. Anyway, I've said since the beginning, if this is going to work, then Wilde and Mendoza need to be marked out individually as threats. They cannot just be some kind of lumbering, idiotic J&J. And my God, did they batter Breezango in this. And the thing is, the overall fluidity and the quality of this match shouldn't surprise anybody, because Breezango, yes, we know that they are a fun tag team. They do cool little skits, but they are, in-ring, really, really good. A lot better than people give them credit for. Isaiah Swerve Scott, he is one of the most accomplished in-ring workers currently in NXT. And in El Legado, they probably have the 3 best two-eyed lucha workers currently in WWE. And I actually really like the finish to this as well. Swerve had the group beat, but got his tags mixed up. He thought he was a legal man, but he wasn't, and that gave the distraction, allowing them to get in, batter him, pick up the win, and that was it. So there's room there to do more between Swerve and Escobar, which I do really, really want to see. And better yet, you kind of throw back to the Cruiserweight stuff and all of that, and they're technically at 1-1 because Swerve was the only person to get a dub over Escobar since he joined the company. So you've got a natural way to do another match, and it's even in its own way a bit of a rubber. This is really smart, I think. I loved it. Up. And one tiny point, it was actually done so well, that ending, that I thought they botched it. I genuinely thought that Swerve hadn't realised, or there hadn't been a tag, and the referee was basically trying to just cover for the situation. Wasn't until I watched it back, I was like, that is perfectly done. He claps. Rattling through at a pace now, and this Pat McAfee stuff has been just so improbably, wonderfully brilliant. From the whole, do you think it's a work opening, to the improbable escalation 2 weeks ago, to now this, one of the best in-ring promo segments I have seen on NXT in a good long while. This is easily one of the very best things on the brand right now. And who saw this coming? Who saw Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole being unmissable pro wrestling? It's bizarre. Hey, and I'll tell you what, right? That promo that Pat McAfee cut in this ring should be shown to every single wrestler backstage on this brand, and it should absolutely humiliate them. It is so good. He is one of the best talkers I've ever seen. And given pro wrestlers are supposed to be good talkers, he wiped the floor with, I think, pretty much everybody but Cole here. And the thing is, despite the fact they're blurring the lines between who's the heel and who's the face in all of this, every single thing McAfee says here is bang on. It's absolutely true. Like, he does have Adam Cole's number. He did just knock him out with one kick. And if he can do that at TakeOver, it undoes Cole's entire legacy in a single moment. NXT hasn't had a match that felt that fascinating in forever. Oh, the drills have started. The drills have started. I'm going to have to shut the window. I'm not to close the window because they've started using the power tools outside now. So let's see if I can finish this video before the beads of sweat are visible. Anyway, yes, Pat McAfee, even the subtle nods here are brilliant, because his whole shtick started from him saying that Cole can't do anything without his boys. And yet when Cole got in his face, it was the NFL lads who blinked first and jumped on the apron. The minutiae of this is being thought about. There's something happening here we're not aware of it yet. Something monumental is going to happen in this match. You don't put this much thought and this much effort into something if it's just your by-the-numbers wrestler versus non-wrestler novelty attraction. Not only is it getting up, I'm giving Pat McAfee, where is it? His own yellow jacket. Not really a whole lot left of the show at this point, but I woke up this morning and read quite a bit of snark, it has to be said, about the Mercedes Martinez Aaliyah versus Shotzi Blackheart Rhea Ripley match. And no, not for me. I have to say that it was fine. It was aggressively fine. It is quite the timeline, quite the weirdest timeline, that we find ourselves in the deep reaches of August's sweaty, horny clutches to find that Aaliyah and Rhea Ripley have had the exact same amount of matches on television this year. That is one woman who is the greenest thing currently in NXT, and one woman who was so highly thought of not 12 months ago that she beat Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler and Charlotte in a weekend, and then got put on a program that was going to run it into an actual WrestleMania match. They have both been on television 12 times this year. And yeah, I get it, while this match didn't exactly set the pulses racing, probably because it was so beholden to, again, the greenest woman in NXT. Aaliyah had to do a lot of the heavy lifting in this. I thought it did a job. Like, was it a frantic, fascinating, exciting match the same way the six-man tag in the men's was? No, it wasn't. It sucked by comparison, but it did a lot of good things and did them well. Shotzi Blackheart gets a win back after she lost to Indy Hartwell the other week. That kind of claws her back a little way. You get Rhea Ripley getting one back on the Robert Stone brand, finally after all this time, and in the process, power bombs Mercedes Martinez onto the concrete. That is some genuine heat going to start to build to that, and if it's going to lead to a very, very violent pro wrestling match, I will sit through 2 or 3 of these tag team matches. It's a means to an end for me. Was it great? No, it's a C+ match, but did it do a job? Do I like where it's going to go? Yeah, I guess I do. Up. Genuinely got to sit here and consider whether or not I can give it down to the fact there was no Shakaroni advert on an episode of a pro wrestling show. I didn't see an advert for a pizza. Can I mark it down for that? I cannot. But again, though, big thank you to everybody who is still continuing to tweet Papa John's and Papa John's UK and now Shaquille O'Neal himself, telling him we need the Shakaroni in the UK, and I will eat the whole thing on the video. I just really want to try it because the advertising has gone into my brain now and I need to consume the product because that's what advertising does. Thank you if you've been doing that. I have noticed that Papa John's now at me out of every single tweet, so we're really annoying them, if nothing else. And just for everybody who replies being like, actually, Papa John's pizzas aren't that nice, you'd be better off just eating cardboard, just shh, let people enjoy things. Anyway, your main event of the evening is Finn Balor versus the returning Velveteen Dream, and I'm really, really sorry that I wasn't here last week to say this, but Velveteen Dream coming back to WWE and being on television is genuinely beyond the pale. WWE's refusal to address the allegations levied against him in all their media calls and saying we just want to move on, we don't want to think about it, and then putting him on TV while it's all still up in the air is... I don't think they've done anything lately that shows the contempt they hold their fans in, and people are so right to be so angry about this. For months now, there have been numerous accusations from numerous different people at numerous stages of his career, most supported with either audio or video evidence that he has been grooming minors and sending explicit images of himself to underage fans. Not 2 months after a whole string of these came out at once, after wrestler Josh Fuller was brave enough to speak up about them, he is now back on the show and heading to TakeOver and in all likelihood in line for a push. No. Just to make this abundantly clear, because I know what everybody says in these situations, Patrick Clark, the Velveteen Dream, is innocent of all these accusations until he is proven guilty either by WWE or in a court of law. But until such a time that firm conclusions can be drawn, he should not be anywhere near a TV show. WWE refused to answer questions about this in media calls, and everybody who came forward with evidence says they haven't spoken to them about it. So they're just taking his word for it, essentially. I know people will somehow want to argue about this, but I just cannot understand how the statement, a man with multiple accusations of grooming children should not be allowed on television until those claims have been dismissed. How is that a controversial statement? They have 1 million wrestlers. Just don't use him until you know. The match was good, because of course it was. That's the whole problem with all of this. That's why he keeps coming back. That's why they're not doing anything about this, because he is good, because he is a draw, because they think they can make some money about him. People have been fired for far less than this, but Velveteen Dream they like, so they are going to keep around because they don't care what harm that might do in the long run. He won, and he's going to take over. Who cares? Down. So there you have it. Those are all the ups and downs from this week's episode of NXT. I am just thrilled, my friends, to be back in the land of the content, away from all that horrible peace and quiet and relaxation and the greatest thunderstorm I've ever seen in my life. And my friend Ella, who is a chef and makes just the greatest food. Oh God, I'm going to weep. Anyway, let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I've, of course, been Adam Clery. Hashtag on Thursdays, we sit safely, coolly, and temperately away from the warm yellow. And I will see you soon. Goodbye.